So the journey was tough. So our top management decided to really invest into digital procurement around COVID, I would say. And so they wanted to have one tool as much as possible to have traceability of our spend, traceability of our processes, and to have an enhanced collaboration between the different stakeholders of the firm. And at the end, the final objective to have data accuracy. So for indirect, the project was, we started back around the COVID again. So the project was to implement SAP Ariba on the 8 countries where we are integrated. So French, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Poland, Romania, Brazil, and Argentina. So to deploy this tool in 8 countries within 2 to 3 years. So it was quite ambitious. And within the retail industry, we have really the fear of missing out. You know, there is a big firm in France called Casino, which is the equivalent size of Tesco that went completely bankrupt a few months ago. So we have the fear of really, and the margins are really thin, so we have this fear. So when we launch a project, we want to go really fast and even too fast. I will come back on it later. So our first objective for that project to deploy SAP Ariba was really to make overhead expenses under control. Because as the margins are really thin in the retail industry, you can look at our results, you will see how thin it is. The reduction that you will make in your indirect procurement will have a direct impact on your EBITDA. So our indirect procurement teams are really reporting directly to the CFO, and we are working closely with him. So really, that was the first objective, and we wanted to deploy both SAP Ariba and SAP S/4HANA at the same time. The SAP S/4HANA program was one of the biggest in Europe, very, very, very complex project, but I won't go in detail on it. And for the private label, again, we had a very aging tool, and the strategy of the firm was to attain the objective of making 40% of our turnover, can you imagine, on 94 billion euros of turnover, on private label. Meaning that into our stores, due to inflation also, we realized that customers will go more for private label, so really the brand of Carrefour, in fact, and due to the fact that their purchasing power reduced. Okay, so we really saw that commodity as a strategic one, and we realized that we should invest in that commodity. So the first priority that we had was to trace the life cycle of our products. So meaning from really the beginning of the design to the supermarket, really to make sure we trace that life cycle. And so for that, we deployed a PLM-centric. So again, the 4 pillars that I mentioned are above: organization, process, tools, and data. This is what drives us from our transformation journey. And today, I'm here also to explain you what we did right, but also what we could have improved, to give you some lesson learned, and so to make it a bit concrete also for you. So for the indirect procurement transformation that we ran, what was really interesting when we deployed SAP Ariba was that we had a strong sponsorship from the CFO. But when I tell you a strong sponsorship, it's even when people were reluctant to do the project, we could tell them, if you're not happy with the project, just go to the CFO's desk. So it makes it really easy to deploy. And that's what I would recommend as well. This is really important to have strong sponsorship. What we did well also is that we deployed that one single tool from source to pay to all the different countries that I mentioned, and try to avoid a best-of-breed solution as much as possible. So that was a success as well. And we also had a very high rhythm of deployment, which was really, really great. But what we did wrong was that the needs expression wasn't that exhaustive. Again, we wanted to go too fast and to take the standards of SAP Ariba which is in fact not the best. The best is to take the time really to look at your needs and make sure you also implicate, the key users. This is very basic, but make sure that your end users are embarked at the very beginning. That's really important. And what we missed also is project governance. We rely too much on consulting firms, and we should have bring, the project director, the internal project director, before, because he arrived but too late in the project, and we had issues like not having core model defined at group level. We had 5 consulting firms working together, so when I arrived in 2022, it was a mess. I didn't understand who was doing what, etc., so it was complex. But at the end, this project is a success. We've been deploying it for 8 countries. Billions of euros are spent through the tool, so it's a strong success. But this is a glimpse of a return on experience. And for private label, so basically that project was, as I said, to deploy PLM centric. But at the beginning, my CPO told me, Florian, you need to deploy SAP Ariba for our private label. And I told her, is it a good idea? I'm not sure. So I took the problem differently, and we took the time with my team and with the different teams inside Carrefour really to look at the needs. Okay, we said, okay, she wants to digitize the procurement process because they are the buyers, which are at the very core center of the strategy of the firm, are doing their RFP with Excel and emails, which is not normal. So how can we make it better? But if we take just a step back, we realize that in fact procurement is part of an entire process, which is the life cycle of the product. So procurement is working with quality, working with marketing, with packaging, and interacting with a lot of data, in fact. And so our need was not to deploy an S2C or S2P solution. Our need was to deploy a PLM system that was able to do S2P or S2C. You see? And so we took the time during several months to really deep dive on our process, to map how a product is deployed, which is not the culture of our firm. We're a retail firm, not an aeronautical firm where everything is processed. So we had to discuss with the different people and really to map our process on a very big A0 paper. It was fun. But at the end, we realized that was the tool, and it was my role to convince the top management not to go for an S2C, but to go for a PLM system and to really embark everyone on that journey. So that's what we did. And at the same time, there was a strong decision also to implement an MDM system. And one of our success also was that we involved the stakeholders at the beginning, and the tool was selected by them, which is very important. But what we did wrong, again, we wanted to go too fast, so we skipped the POC phase. And we have shortlisted a few PLM systems, but we skipped the POC phase. We went to an MVP on the procurement side, and in fact, we went too fast, and the IT procurement team didn't get the time to really strongly negotiate with the different SaaS providers. And so as we started with the SaaS provider, the negotiation was really tough because we were already implicated with them, okay? So my return on experience is to say, maybe take a few weeks more, but make sure that you compete with maybe at least 2 to 4 or 5, I would say 2 to 3, but SaaS providers, so that you can at least compare them, and you have also a negotiation power at that time, which is very important because you engage the firm in 10 years at least, and so it costs millions of euros for projects like this. So we also had very limited sponsorship on that project because as it's a very complex project and the ROI is very long, we didn't have much sponsorship from top management, which was a pity. So again, on the challenges and lessons learned, the sponsorship is key, but also what we do in that transformation journey has a purpose. The purpose is to generate value, and what we mean by value is at the end purchasing performance. So it's very important to value your purchasing performance and to have an FP&A stakeholder really validating all of your purchasing performance. This is really key, and that's what we do at Carrefour. This can be very operational, it can seem very operational, but consider taxonomy as your backbone. This is very important because actually every category has a buyer and it will determine everything, your organization, the quality of your data, the validation of your sourcing, of your purchase request. So really taxonomy is key and is your backbone. And even if you're a top manager, you should consider it as your backbone. As I'm from the countryside of France, we say all the time that we should not put the cart before the horse. So basically, don't go too fast. We also have, in that type of project, promoters and detractors. Detractors, people are really interesting. Be humble, listen to them. The detractors can be your best promoters at the end. If you listen to them, you should take into account what they want. And don't over-complexify processes. I mean, 15 steps to validate a purchase request, even though it's €1 million purchase request, it's not worth it. Too many validation means no validation. And so I'm running out of time. Looking ahead on our digital procurement journey, so for private label, our next step are really to embark all functions in PLM project. As I said, we started with procurement, but now we need to make sure we embark marketing, we embark quality, because at the end, the product is developed with all this team all together. And we need to prioritize business requirements because we have like dozens, like it's very big, the project is very big and we have plenty of business requirements, but we need to make sure we prioritize them and we develop what really will create value on a short-term perspective. And at the end, make sure that the end user take really ownership of the tool. It's their tool. I mean, it's not the tool that we have imposed to them. And this is really important. And for indirect, we are a bit more mature on our digital procurement transformation journey. So what we want is to decommission all possible tools. So for example, in Belgium or in Italy, they still have tools that we can decommission thanks to SAP Ariba. So that's the objective. For those of you who know, there is a new version of SAP Ariba. We don't have it yet. So we need to deploy guided sourcing and guided buying. That's the name of the version, which is a bit more sexy in terms of user interface and stuff. And at the end, reduce run costs, because this type of project for that size costs dozens of millions of euros. It's tremendous. And so we want to make sure we reduce our TMA at the end. So thanks everyone for listened to me. If you have any questions, I will take them. And if you want to take a coffee with me and discuss about it, I'll be more than happy to discuss about this concrete digital procurement transformation journey.
Brilliant. Florian, thank you very much indeed. We have a man with a microphone at the back, so we can take some questions if anybody's got them. But something, and bung your hand up in the room or use the app if you're online. Florian, there are two things which came across for me, which really echoed a different keynote earlier on stage 2. Joanna from Danish Crown. And they introduced new procurement platforms. And the two same resonances. One, it's all about the people. It's not the tech. Well, of course it's the tech, but it's all about the people at the top and bringing the people on with you, which I think you reflected on. And the other thing that they experienced was that there was a huge refusal to use the new tech, and they had to reinvent their transformation a bit to get buy-in. So how did you achieve buy-in and prevent people within your huge company from going native and going rogue?
You take the courage to go to them, to listen to them, and to understand why they refuse it. So you sit at the table with them, you listen, you take notes, and you go back to your project team and you say, okay, we missed something and we need to reinvent the wheel and to present it differently. And maybe that functionality that we thought we would develop and present that way. Maybe we missed something completely, and we should, adjust. So it really requires strong humility and capacity to listen to the end users. This is really important.
So engagement up front.
Yes.
Puts off the pain at the end. But go on, tell us how much refusal did you have within the company across a huge geography to use new?
For SAP Ariba, it was really tough. On my role, there were several people who started my role and then left the firm after a few months due to the fact that the buyers were too tough with them. Seriously, no, it's very serious. I would say maybe half of them at the beginning, but as long as we listened to them, we took into account their remarks, we identified some key users also, people at ease with digital tools, and also people not at ease with digital tools. They are really interesting to listen to. And then at the end, adjusting, they became to like the tool, to make all of their RFPs inside. Well, they don't have the choice, but now they are doing it. And without complaining, so it's better now. Yeah, but at the beginning, we always speak about change management, but people are always reluctant to change. It's normal. I mean, it's human, but you should accompany it, with a very humble way. Otherwise, it will be difficult, very, very difficult. Yeah.
We've heard, and a previous speaker this morning was talking that suddenly procurement is sexy. It is, and the board is listening because procurement is at the heart of absolutely everything the company does. Have you found that since the procurement transformation that you led, that and through the executive sponsorship which you had, that procurement has been propelled up to the top of the agenda?
I wouldn't say that the transformation made it visible to the top management. What really made it visible to the top management is procurement performance. And it's because, in fact, the buyers are performing a lot. One KPI, our buyer generates 1,000 euros of EBITDA per hour, approximately.
Wow.
Yes, okay? So for indirect procurement, that's approximately the KPI I calculated. So I can tell you they are really recognized from top management. But my role is to make sure that I optimize their time. You see what I mean?
Sure.
So everything that we make, today we spoke about digital transformation, but we do plenty of other stuff to make sure that their time is used the right way and that they don't lose time on very operational stuff, not bringing and not creating value. So at the end, it's a teamwork. Buyers focusing on making performance and transformation team focusing on support and transformation. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, please don't hesitate.
Did I see a hand? There was a hand, a gentleman whose eye caught me first. At lightning speed, the microphone. Look, he started to run there. Oh, we need the mic so our friends online can hear us too, but thank you.
You talked a lot about building that kind of internal consultancy skill within your team to deliver a lot of the transformation on your own. Can you elaborate a bit on how you did that? What worked well? We discussed before the speech. I loved my time at consulting at PwC, but I felt that we were overdoing to promote the firm, in fact, sometimes, and that we were putting some effort just to show off a bit and to show that we were a big firm, a big consulting firm. And so what I tried to do with my team is to bring that methodology, which is very, very interesting and can help you understand any type of problem, but really to make sure that we put our energy and our focus on what's really asked by the stakeholders internally. And so I think that's what helped. Really, and I also have other colleagues from consulting firms. Of course, we've been working with all the Accenture, Bain, consulting firms and stuff, but at the end, really making sure that what we do, any slide that we produce, any work spec that we write is really answering to the problem and not focusing on the aspects of the slide, but really the concrete stuff. You see what I mean? So I don't know if it answers your question, but yeah.
And unless there's a lightning speed question with a lightning speed answer, please. Oh yeah, and a lightning speed microphone.
You mentioned that you consider this transformation to be a success. How do you measure success?
Yeah, it's a very tough question, actually. You will ask the different buyers. You remember that schema I was showing? Je sais pas si je peux. No, I can't. Anyways. As I said, you will always have detractors. And even though you listen to the detractors, they will consider your transformation as not really interesting. So it's tough. For example, I didn't talk about GenAI, but we are running in production. We worked on GenAI in May 2023, and we are now at the end of what we did. We identified a lot of use cases, and we are currently industrializing them. So we can say that, for example, it's a success for taking the trend of GenAI. It's a success maybe for deploying one single tool, but at the end, it's also the satisfaction of users. So we also did some NPS surveys, Net Promoter Score. But at the end, the best success is to go and discuss with the buyers, and they tell you what you did helped me. You see what I mean? This is the real success at the end. But if the buyers come to you and say, what you did was really bad and made me lose time, then you realize that, in fact, what you have implemented was bad. So it's a very tough question. But the best, I think, is to have very frank discussions with people. It will help you determine if what you did was right or not. Because at the end, top management has a project, and you have to implement it. But if you want to make it a success, it should also bring value to the end stakeholder, not only to top management. Yes.
Well, look, Florian, thank you for the question, and thank you very much for sharing your experiences of what you've achieved at Carrefour, and a measure of how interested people have been to learn from that is the amount of people in the room and people poking their heads in the door. So, Florian, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.